Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here in the Hollywood Museum in the heart of Hollywood, on Highland between Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard. And today we're in a new location. We're in the makeup room of the historic Max Factor building. And this is the room where the Brownettes got made up. So I don't know what that means, but we're in the Brownettes room. You'll see a whole lot of wonderful stars on the back wall. And our guests are author Steven Rea and artist John Brosio. Author, journalist, film critic, poet, Steven Rea was born in London, England, and raised in New York City. He graduated from San Francisco State. He attended the Writers' Workshop at the University of Iowa and is currently a professor at Drexel University College of Media Arts and Designs. He's written album covers, he's written for newspapers and magazines, and he hosts a talk show called Talk Cinema. His poetry has been published in Paris Review and the New York Quarterly. And you went to Stuyvesant High School.
I did.
Was that a really artistic place?
It was for me. I mean, it's a science and math school, and you have to take this test to get in. And it's the old Stuyvesant High School that was over on the lower. It was on 15th and First Avenue before they moved to the fancy digs in Battery Park City.
Oh, so it was it was a well-known school.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was famous. And I just sort of, the English department embraced me and I embraced them, and I had a wonderful mentor there, this teacher named Jesse Lowenthal, who knew E. Cummings, and so I wrote poetry there. And,
it's so great to hear that this mentor.
Mm-hmm.
When you took your test to get in, what were you going to study?
Well, I didn't really know. I sort of, science and math were not my forte.
That's what I was wondering, because you're the other side of the brain, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I was sort of lucky that I got in, and it worked out.
And so you studied writing, and poetry?
Poetry. I mean, it was a high school, so you had to take everything, math, science.
And then how'd you get to San Francisco State?
My family moved out here my last year of high school to the LA area, Pasadena. And so I followed after I graduated, and then they had a great writing program at San Francisco State, the creative writing program.
So I was going to say, was that the right path for you to take?
Yes, yeah, very much so.
So it worked out really well. And then did you live in San Francisco for a while?
While I was at school there, yeah.
And then after?
Then the University of Iowa for a year and a half.
So you were in the writing program at the university. They also are known for their writing program.
I was in the poetry program, so.
It was totally poetry.
There was a fiction writers workshop and poetry writers workshop, and I was in the poetry.
So you weren't writing plays. And
No,
you weren't?
no.
And were there well-known people in that?
Let's see, Rita Dove, who went on to win the Pulitzer for poetry, she was in my group.
She was in your group working. So.
Yeah, Stanley Plumley was one of our teachers. He's a well-known poet. Sandra McPherson was one of our teachers.
Is that what drew you there?
Marvin Bell.
What drew you to Iowa?
Well, the reputation, of Iowa City and the Writers' Workshop, and I was lucky. I sent my stuff and I got in, so I had to go.
And then did you go right to the Philadelphia Inquirer?
No. Then
there?
I came here. I came here to LA,
right?
And I worked in the music business. I wrote editorial copy for Island Records. I had a staff job at Island Records when Chris Blackwell owned it, and it was independently owned.
Right, I remember Chris very well.
It was at the time of Toots and the Maytals and the early Bob Marley albums.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a really great experience.
So you were writing those kind of...
I was writing their, just the promotional biographies for the artists and some of the merchandising copy. and then I wrote for the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner here, the afternoon daily.
So did I.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's right. You said that in your note.
Yes, we did, yeah.
Yeah, I had a column called Simple Pleasures that was in the weekend section, where every week you'd try to find sort of thrifty, inexpensive, fun things to do.
Oh, I love those, yeah. The Herald was great.
And
was
I did
really
my,
good.
actually my very first interview with an actor that was published was for the Herald-Examiner. It was with Albert Finney.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
Because in the 80s, you
Yes.
went to the Enquirer,
Yes,
right? And,
yes.
and the Herald closed in the late
Yes.
80s.
Yes.
I closed it, unfortunately. I was so sad. I was crying. It was so. But anyway, so then from there, you went to the Enquirer?
Yep, I've been there for a very long time now, since 1982. And I started as just a general assignment features writer, doing pop music, interviewing
but you knew
authors.
music because you came from this
Yeah, and
music
I've always
field.
loved music, but I also knew film. I grew up in New York going to the movies every weekend. And so gradually I just sort of moved closer to covering movies and
But how does
less
that
so about
happen?
music.
How does a critic become a critic? Because
Well-
here you were writing music and you were poetry bound, really.
Right. I just sort of, I was lucky. We had, at that time, there were two, full-time film critics, but they didn't want to go see, Nightmare on Elm Street. They didn't want to see like a junky.
Oh, stuff that they
Yeah,
didn't
so
wanna
you
see?
start doing the low rent, low budget movies,
Right.
and you just work, and then, one of them takes a vacation and you get to do a Spielberg movie, and,
But
stuff
how
like
do you
that.
write the critique? Do you have a plan?
I mean, I guess I haven't formulated it literally, but I sort of approach. I mean, I try to approach every movie with an open mind, and in different genres. I love movies across the board, so it doesn't matter if it's a.
It's kind of like fashion, it's all the same. I mean, it's clothes, movies, it's something on the screen.
Sure,
So
sure.
how do you make the public really like it? You have to come up with all these different ideas.
Well, you have to convey a sense of what the movie is about and what the filmmakers and the actors are trying to accomplish. And then you have it's criticism and it's subjective, so you have to give your opinion of
Put
what
your
the
own
film.
opinion, yeah.
But an informed opinion. Hopefully, it's an informed opinion.
Are you ever afraid to give an opinion because of studio pressure or anything like that?
No, not because of studio pressure. Everything that every journalist at the Philadelphia Inquirer, their byline at the bottom of the story, your email and your phone number is
that's
printed.
why?
And so I get if I trash some cult favorite movie,
Right.
like for instance the last Quentin Tarantino movie, I just got a deluge of very hostile, angry emails.
Because of your critique?
Yes.
The angry eight,
Yes.
or the hateful
The
eight.
hateful eight.
Hateful
Yeah, I
eight.
got a lot of hateful email, more than 8.
More than 8 pieces.
Yes.
They could have used more than 8 people in that film. So, while you were writing for the Inquirer, you were also.
I still am. I'm still yes.
Okay, while you're writing for, yeah, right, you still are. You write critiques for other places too?
Not too much. I do a little freelance writing here and there, but I've been working on these books.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
then when did the books come in?
Let's
And
see.
how did the books come in?
Okay. Well, the first one was Hollywood Rides a Bike, Cycling with the Stars, and that was published by Angel City Press, which is a Santa
Oh,
Monica-based.
is that who did that?
Yes, in 2012, and it started. In addition to movies being a huge passion of mine, cycling is a huge passion of mine. I have a collection of vintage bicycles, and I ride my bike around the city every day.
Oh, how
And so I
great.
started collecting photographs of movie stars on bikes. And
How'd you collect them? Just on online?
no, I actually have volumes and volumes of the original press photos
Like
that were released
these?
by the
Do you?
studios. Yeah.
It's-
By Ernest Bacharach and Clarence Bull, and
Oh,
all
you
these
did?
great photographers and the
Were
studio
you buying
photographers.
them? Were you
Yes,
buying
I'm
them
buying
at
them.
the
Yeah,
time?
yeah. No, not at the time. I wasn't. But
when you started?
yeah, there are collectors and dealers that have these amazing collections that will sell them. Some of them are $10, $15 a photo, and some are $150,
I would think,
$350 a photo.
yeah.
So I slowly started collecting photos, and
So that was your inspiration for this because you were writing.
right.
Writing,
Right.
I
So
mean,
it's movies.
cycling.
Yeah.
And
so
it's
this is
so
Joan, a
amazing.
very young Joan Crawford on the cover.
I know, it's so great, and the pictures inside. Who else do you have inside?
Oh, let's see. Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall. Let's see, who else is in the book? Robert Mitchum.
But they're not all in films.
No,
They're not all
some.
from films.
No, they aren't. It's a mix of publicity, production shots from the films, candid backlot shots, some at-home shots. Like the photograph of Robert Mitchum is in his Santa Barbara home when he's very young. He's pumping air into a bike tire.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Did you have a timeline, guidelines?
I sort of, for both books, it's sort of the Turner Classic Movies window. From the silent era through up to the 70s, but I would say the bulk of them are from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
And then that's your first book that you started. So
Yes.
once you got that finished and published, and Angel City Press is great. We
They
love
are.
them over
Yeah,
there.
they really are.
They're wonderful people. And Hollywood Cafe, well, you came in holding a cup of coffee.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's
So I don't need the inspiration
No,
for
right,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
But the same thing, on and off the set?
Exactly. Yeah, the same thing. Shots from films, like there's a shot of the Audrey Hepburn standing in front of Tiffany's window with the Schraff's takeout cup of coffee from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
And when was that? Was she actually on the set?
Yeah,
at
it was
that?
shot. Yeah, it was shot while they were producing the film.
Okay, one of the other things, you sent me a few pictures, and I know the pictures in here. The Knights of the Round Table. Tell us about that. They're in their director's
Oh, I love
chairs.
that photo. Yeah, it's Ava Gardner and Robert Taylor, and Ava Gardner played Guinevere in the film, and Robert Taylor's Lancelot, and they're taking a break. Robert Taylor's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's pouring coffee from a very modern, at the time, thermos. So I love and they're in their costumes. So they're in this Arthurian costumes, sitting on their chairs with their names on the back of them. And I love the anachronistic quality of that photo, and just the sort of these, here are these stars taking a break, fueling themselves with coffee.
And Sylvia Sims, she's having her hair done. Is that on set too?
Yes, that was for a European film, the title of which I'm blanking on right now, but she was getting her hair made she plays a nun in the film.
But
it's a sort of
this
serious.
isn't from the film.
No,
this
it's
is all off camera.
Yeah, the
all
makeup
ones
guy.
we've talked about have been off camera, right? Or
Yes.
off the set.
Yes, off the set.
And then did we finish with Sylvia Sims? Yes, she was having her hair done. Hedy Lamarr and Jimmy Stewart. Is that on the set?
Yeah, that's a production still from a romantic comedy where it's sort of like a green card romantic comedy story where she needs to marry an American to be able to stay in the States, and Jimmy Stewart is the guy she meets. And that scene takes place at a diner counter, and the waiter is serving them coffee and making comments about the coffee.
Making comments about the coffee too?
Yeah.
And then the last one we'll talk about is Shirley MacLaine, because I love that there's a Chemex.
Yes, exactly. I'm totally geeky about coffee, and to see a Chemex, which is now like the artisanal coffee pour-over thing.
Starting again,
Yeah,
because it went out of
right,
style for a while.
And there she was. That was a time when her daughter was just 2 or 3 years old. So it was about the time of The Apartment that she made Billy Wilder's Apartment, and that was in her apartment. And
so it was a real.
It was taken for a movie magazine, and So Shirley MacLaine having coffee out of a Chemex. There's another Chemex. David Niven and his wife use a Chemex in
here too.
Yes.
In their own house.
Yeah, on the patio of their house in Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Oh, that's so. How did you find all of those pictures?
The same. I used a lot of the same people that I did for the bike book, and told them I was looking for coffee photos. And for some reason, there's a gentleman in Uruguay, of all places, who has an unbelievable archive of vintage Hollywood photographs.
And so does he loan them to
No, he
you?
sells them, and he's a dealer, yeah. And there's Jerry Ollinger's movie memorabilia store in New York, and he sells photos.
So everything in here you own?
Not everything. I would say about 90%. And then I had the licensed photos from Getty Images and Magnum and Corbis. And
then you write a little bit about each
Yeah, I
thing?
research the background and context for the movies and the photos and write a little paragraph for each
About what it is?
photo.
Who's on the cover?
It's Dick Powell and Ellen Drew from Preston Sturges' Christmas in July, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's a totally coffee-centric movie.
Is it?
Yeah, it's he plays this sort of working schmo, and there's a contest to come up with a new caption for a coffee company, and so he comes up with this kind of wonky slogan which is if you can't sleep at night, it's not the coffee, it's the bunk.
I did read that. It's the bunk,
Right.
which is kind of really stupid.
Yeah, right,
isn't it?
exactly. And so he's led to believe he's won the contest by his coworkers. It's sort of a cruel joke. And he and his wife, who's played by Ellen Drew, go out on a buying spree. And
because
they think they've won this huge check from the coffee company. And so it's a screwball Preston Sturges comedy. And Preston Sturges is sort of the spiritual overseer for the project for me. He was a complete coffee demon. There's a photo of him with a giant bowl of coffee, he's drinking from
A big bowl of
yes.
coffee, yeah.
And he
Very
talks about how
European, right?
yes, and he's talking about how coffee is the the originators of ideas use coffee as a fuel.
Oh, that's
so
right.
it's perfect.
Right. It's perfect. And this was perfect. I'm so glad you came to talk to
well,
us.
thanks so much.
We're so happy you came. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you, Joan. Thanks.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with artist John Brosio. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here in the makeup room of the historic Max Factor building, and this is where all the brownettes got made up. I'm with artist John Brosio, who was born and raised in South Pasadena, attended Loyola High School, and went to UC Davis. John took some night courses at Art Center Pasadena, but I'll let him tell you that story. So one thing though, when you were in Loyola, you were writing too.
Yeah.
And did you ever think you were going to be writing films?
Or
what were you going to do in the film world? Were you going to write?
I liked collaborative art. I like being able to go in and, not that this always happens, but everyone believes in the idea. You're all like putting on a stage show or something. Everyone is giving 130% to get the thing over the hill. I just loved that energy, loved that environment.
Right.
I did not want to necessarily be doing what I do now, which is working by myself with my blinders on to some degree. So I was writing and making science fiction pictures just as a matter of momentum in high school. It was my interest.
So when you decided to go to UC Davis, was it hard to get in?
At that time, not as difficult as it is now.
Were you going to go right to the art department?
Yeah, I did, absolutely.
And then, so you said Arneson was there and Wayne Thiebaud was there. I love one of the stories you told about Wayne and his glass of water.
Which, him.
Teaching you how to teach.
Thiebaud, Wayne Thiebaud would do demonstrations for his students. And I remember maybe just the second day of class, he set up. He's very, very deliberate, very quiet, extremely articulate. He's the one who gave words to things that I didn't think had words. He puts up this canvas, has a glass of water with a flower in it, and proceeds to make a painting in 4 hours, something that's finished, ready to sell. And I remember just seeing methodically, part of me went, wow, even a child could do it. Not make it interesting necessarily, but here's how to do it. And it just, things snowballed after that.
So
I couldn't stop.
So that was really the big inspiration. And what was he painting?
It's, just that day?
No, basically.
He's
so great.
But he's famous primarily at first for all the cakes and pies.
And
then he stopped one day.
Storefront.
Yes, but he stopped and did these very precipitous paintings of San Francisco streets.
Street scenes.
Freeways and things.
Yeah, exactly.
And those almost, those became as popular as his confectionery paintings.
I was in Sacramento last week, and he lives in Sacramento, and he still plays tennis every day, and he still teaches, and he still paints, and he's still great.
He's 95, I think.
96.
Tennis, and I'm just...
I know, isn't it amazing?
It's wonderful.
So, okay, so we've got you in Davis. You're in Wayne Thiebaud's class. Did you take anything from Arneson?
Yes.
Who else?
Up there was, there's Roland Peterson, Mike Henderson.
Roland Peterson, fantastic landscape painter.
Wonderful work.
Oh, so he was there too.
William Wiley was briefly there. Maybe he was visiting, but I got there just after he was there.
Yeah. So it's that whole San Francisco school.
Yes. And a lot of them, I guess they sort of came over the hill into the Central Valley as things simmered down or changed on the coast,
because I was at the Crocker Museum. I went to the Crocker when I was in Sacramento, and it's that whole San Francisco school of names that you really don't know, a lot of names you don't know, but fantastic painters.
That's just because painting's not in the main, film is the art form of the day. So there's this undercurrent of another whole other industry. It doesn't get just written about as much.
It's just brilliant. So the other thing is when you said that every painter should read this book, Beginning Painter, Painting by, what is it like? Painting is a Pastime by Churchill.
As a shot in the arm, there's at any point, any artist is going to go, okay, I just do this, I don't feel it anymore. Winston Churchill wrote a book, maybe it's only about so big, maybe a quarter inch or less thick.
It's not very big.
You can sit down and get right through it, which is important when you're in that mood.
Yeah.
And by the time you finish the book, it's like watching Rocky. You're like, I'm going to go make art.
Is that what it's
Churchill,
like? Really inspirational.
and of course, in the way, he's a amazing writer, of course.
I love the way he wrote it. I see.
The way he writes anything. I mean, Churchill and wording, you just...
But so wording still goes back to Loyola when you were with the priest who was teaching you English at the time, right? So you really appreciate that. But you don't use words in your paintings.
No, but they're definitely, they at least flirt with narrative.
There's story, right, there's storytelling. What do you paint with? What kind of materials do you use?
I have... to the extent that I can, I've decided to be traditional. Canvas, oil paint. I mean, there's so many things going on now with installation and whatnot, but almost it's like, well, if you can't get it across with just a pencil and a paper, maybe you need to cultivate your idea instead of your options.
And then tell us a little bit about this.
Oh, I brought this in because it's smaller. Most everything is 4 feet across, 5 feet across. It was for it's just a small show called...
It's a bride?
This painting is called Bride in Headlights.
And she is in the headlights?
Yeah, and you're coming along in a car. If I knew exactly what it was about, I might not have painted it. But if you can imagine coming along, she looks like she's maybe ready to attack or something. Or pick up the car. You're not going to hit her. She's going to do something.
She's going to levitate, maybe. The sky looks either like it's just going down or just coming up. Mm-hmm. What is it doing? I bet it's just coming up and she's been out all night.
It could be. It's almost take your pick. There's a great story about painter Albert Pinkham Ryder, early American, and he has a famous painting of death on a horse. It's called The Racetrack, you know that?
Right, yeah.
And he painted that after hearing about the suicide of a friend who, in a desperate move, put all his money down on this horse at the racetrack. The horse didn't come in and he hung himself. And he was so distraught. He went home and made something, sky similar to this, and they asked him, is it evening or is it morning? He goes, I didn't think about it. It's just that important twilight moment, that crossover moment.
So, okay, we're gonna show some photographs. We're gonna show some pictures of your, spaceship. What is that picture about?
There's two spaceships. The
with
UFO?
The people, yeah, with the little people in front of it.
There's that's another bride painting. There's a UFO, and you see descending the stairway there. There are brides coming out and going out to maybe wreak havoc or do whatever they do, but coming up from this sort of otherworldly origin. Right. I think marriage is. I grew up having it was sanctified, but I watched everyone around me shred it as I grew up. I'm all, wait, is it supposed to be a good thing or is it a horrible thing? So you get to this age where you all, okay, yeah, I remember it. I remember what they said.
And how do you feel about it now?
It's the same way as people of my age group. It's just...
In or out, in and out, kind of.
My question would be, if I were to speak back to my elders, I'd go, okay, what did you mean when you said that,
Okay, well, some of them can answer you. Mm-hmm. The other picture, Raven, there's a big fire behind them.
There's two crows tearing apart a city. It's a companion piece to another painting I have of 3 large chickens walking into a town. And I painted it in part because it's already stupid. It kind of speaks to those 1950s movies where maybe their budget is such, well, we can't afford Ray Harryhausen, but maybe we can get a lizard and glue something on it and have it run through a model.
And it's like little houses, right, with these big chickens. That's the other thing. There's a big Gila monster or something smoke.
There is a movie called The Gila Monster. I used a an iguana.
Oh, it was an iguana.
I found
Well,
a
it looked like
taxidermy iguana. It's, yeah, same basic
Oh,
thing.
that's a very interesting thing. So do you use those kind of models when you're painting? Do you have your chickens in there, stuffed chickens or real
Yes,
chickens?
sometimes I won't, sometimes it's what I find. We have a taxidermy closet at school, and I open it up, and I look down and I go, wait, maybe one of those. And it has to do maybe with how it's standing and the look, maybe the way it's glancing over looks particularly idiotic, so I think I'll choose that.
The other thing you do a lot of, I know, is these hurricanes. and
Tornadoes.
these tornadoes. Well, so there, I'm interpreting things differently. So you tell us about it.
There's another thing growing up, I wanted to go into maybe physics and cosmology, maybe meteorology, anything that deals with large natural dynamics. People study earthquakes or oceans. And for me, it was tornadoes. And before there was...
But we don't have tornadoes, do we?
I probably got it. Oh, there's
In LA.
We actually do. There's a
We
weird
have had them.
statistic.
We
There's-
have had them, right?
You do have them, and they're smaller, they're shorter lived, but statistically, there's more occur. I think it's in a certain area of Southern California per square mile per year than in the entire state of Oklahoma.
Oh, because Oklahoma you think of, right?
Right, it's a weird thing. But the twisters, I just gravitated to that. Always liked
Like,
weather,
yeah.
thunderstorms, lightning.
Did you
And
think you might be a TV weatherman?
I did know, but I was a storm chaser for 3 years. When it
Oh,
first
you
started
were?
out, you can now pay to go on tours and travel around and do that. But I had no footage. At the time, there weren't all the extensive videos and news footage. I had to go out there and accumulate that to get some reference.
And you were a storm watcher? Storm chaser?
They call them storm chasers.
Chaser,
I still
right.
keep up with some of the scientists and photographers over time.
So these pieces, this one piece is it's not a hurricane, it's a tornado.
Tornado's a localized funnel. A
Right.
hurricane, it could be across an
But
entire
it's like
state.
really bad weather all around
Mm-hmm.
it, right? Do you paint people?
I do. I do have portraits and things that I've
You
done.
do?
I'm sure I'll go back to it at some point.
And so all of these things come from your brain, or do they come
Yeah.
from films, or do they come from books, or where do they come from?
I think they're definitely me. I've spoken with friends of mine who think they're all self-portraits in one way or another.
Oh, they are. Oh.
I think the sounds and something being quietly violent over here, maybe, or maybe something very content and peaceful over here, and all the dynamics I think we all have in us. I think maybe I'm using these things to represent those. Not consciously, but I've had friends go, "Okay, yeah, this one's you," and tell me how did I arrange it as such?
And then you've had your work in a lot of shows. I think you just have a show up now. Where is it?
Oh, I'm with Arcadia Contemporary Gallery, just moved from New York, and their debut presence in Los Angeles was participation in the Los Angeles art show that just ended. So it was 4 huge days of...
And were you
Traffic.
there in the booth? And what did you show?
There's 7 new paintings.
Where do you paint?
I have a small space near Chinatown and the studio, but I also sneak some work in the garage. In the corner. Just if you're at home and if you have an idea, you don't want to go back to the full setup.
Right.
Take something out, knock it in.
John Brosio, thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much.
And
Absolutely.
and I love all of those paintings because they're so bizarre. Thank you.
Very kind of you.
Thank you. And thanks for watching. And write to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.